Hello and welcome back to Pop Culture Graveyard. I am Hollis. With me as always is Dave. Hello, Dave.
Hi, Hollis.
You are bundled up. Is it cold where you are?
It's a very light shirt. It looks bundled, but it's not.
Okay,
but it is a
good.
little chilly. Yeah, it's 63.
All right. Wow. It is 85 here and sunny, but I have the AC blasting, so I have my sweater on. I have the sweater on over a Difford and Tilbrook. They are the two artistic minds behind Squeeze. I don't know if you remember that band, Dave.
I adore that band.
Yeah, they were one of my all-time favorites. I'm wearing it because they are the consummate songwriters. And the movie we're dealing with today, Hearts Beat Loud from 2018, deals with songwriters / performers, a father and daughter team who live in Red Hook.
Red Hook, Brooklyn.
Red Hook, Brooklyn, a portion of Brooklyn that isn't normally featured as a setting in a film. So I like that at least. It's not yet another Williamsburg film. Parts of it are filmed in Greenpoint, as we'll get into. But coming on the heels of Almost Famous, Dave, I wanted us to jump into another film about the love of music and the people who make it. And this is that.
Yeah, this works. And this is Famous Don't Enter Into It.
Yeah, not even close to Almost Famous.
There are no gigantic hard cases in this movie. Yeah.
Well, first of all, let me just say it's directed by Brett Haley. It was written by Brett Haley and Mark Bash. It is the kind of film that we're always championing. If it was a book, it would be a mid-list book. It is the little film that can. It's like an indie film, and it punches way above its weight class.
Mm-hmm.
It's charming as hell. And it's a film that deals with music. The people in the film make music. They create this band called We're Not a Band. I think we hear maybe 4 different songs in the film that they themselves do.
Almost in their entirety is the nice thing. It's this close to being a musical.
Yeah.
It's really not. It's not almost a musical, but it has full musical numbers. It's funny. They don't feel like a musical number. They feel like a scene. They are a scene in the movie. It's just, it reminds me of what in film school. I don't remember what the subject was, but the teacher was talking about in this type of film, if a guy shaves, you watch him shave from beginning to end. That's how these films are made. But it reminded me of that because it's like any other movie would have been like a couple of snippets of them playing live and like the beginning, a little bit of the middle and the end and the pats on the back. But this was like, no, let's film this as a scene. The looks back and forth at each other, the reaction of the crowd. It was a great way to use music, to use a band in a movie.
You make a great point. And normally films do that all the time. And it's a way of hiding the fact that the song isn't so great, and they'll show like a verse and a chorus, and then they'll cut away. You guys were awesome. And they don't have to do the heavy lifting of actually entertaining you with a song. This film, you're absolutely right. We get to hear all the songs, and the impact is even stronger because the songs hold up to critical listening.
Yeah, what's the guy's name? They went and got a guy who writes
music by Keegan DeWitt.
That's it. They went to Keegan DeWitt, musical genius, and said, we need these songs for these movies, and they have to be bangers. They can't be just okay.
Right. Because also, Dave, it's a plot point in the film.
Yeah.
This daughter, who is the real creative genius of the two between her and her dad, the daughter, Sam Fisher, her father's name is Frank, she has to have a clear choice. She could pursue music and be great. Or she could keep going down the avenue she's going. And she seems to have an aptitude for that too, and is equally
which is medical school.
Smart. Medical school. But it needs to be a real choice. You know, if she were less talented, there'd be no choice.
There's no dilemma.
There's no dilemma. If she were less talented in either arena, or even if she was of a different mindset and a little bit more like her dad and hadn't matured and become sort of the adult between the two, she would be like, "Oh my God, they want us to put out an album? For sure." But this, you get all the drama from that dichotomy of her character that she has to choose.
Yeah, and they got
And
an actress who can handle it. I've never seen her before.
yeah, nor I. It stars Nick Offerman as Frank Fisher, this guy who owns a record store in Red Hook, although it was filmed in the Academy Records Annex in Greenpoint when they were still on Oak Street. Now they're on Banker Street. Love Academy Records. I go to the one in Manhattan all the time. And he, the father, just wants to be around music, like Rudy Ray Moore's character in Dolomite before he made it,
Mhm.
like William Miller in Almost Famous, just wants to kind of be close to music because he used to be an artist. He put out one record by himself, but the true genius he crossed paths with, he married, and they used to perform together until she died in a biking accident. They have a daughter, Sam. She inherited her mother's musical gift and creativity, and the father has been forcing her to jam with him every week of her life, has been trying to make her have a band with him since she was 12. And that's where we join up with this. She's about to leave for medical school in a week. During one of their last jam sessions, she creates this song with his help, Hearts Beat Loud, the title track of this film. It is such an excellent song. It transcends the movie. It stays in your head after. And
Mhm.
sometimes I would just want to hear this song over and over.
I went and listened to the guy who wrote it performing it.
How was that? I could imagine it doesn't lose
I
much.
no offense to Kiersey Clemens. She kills it. She's incredibly
She
good,
is amazing.
but he does a real nice job. It's actually a him and a second vocal, like a backup vocal,
Oh,
and it's really nice. I highly recommend it.
I have a confession to make. I watched this film a couple of months ago and I was like, oh my God, we got to do this film. And then I watched it again just this morning. I cry every time I hear that title song.
Oh,
It's because I'm so invested in their relationship, you know,
mhm.
and the feelings that they share on camera. These are two good actors who create a history in very short time because they're not together that long before they jam that first time. And it always gets to me, you know, but I wouldn't be moved at all if the song wasn't amazing. And it's not only moving, but it's like, it's believable that that character created it, which is not always the case in movies. You know, she's
Mm,
such a great
yeah,
voice and she's so cool and interesting and she's in med school. You know, I could believe that she wrote that outrageously great song.
yeah, absolutely. I bring this up constantly. Like, how you gonna write a movie about a song? Because how are you gonna have a song in it that how can you possibly have a song that's believable to be the song that took off?
Yeah.
Um, the answer is you gotta do the work. You gotta pay someone to
Yeah.
make the song, and the song has to be good.
Yeah. They got their
I don't
money's worth.
Yeah, they absolutely did, and they got a few, and they're all good, and they feel like they all came from the same person.
Right. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
organic. It feels organic.
This movie is how old? Hang on.
2018.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's 6 years old.
I
So,
was surprised I missed out on it the first time. Like, where was
yeah,
I?
I didn't realize while I was watching it, Nick's beard was pretty gray, and I was like, "Okay, it's probably fairly recent."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Ooh, no, it's 6 years old." I was like, "That's probably Nick Offerman's first lead."
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
you know what,
non-comedic.
yeah, you know, thinking about it now, I think I know why I missed it. The ad for this film that I've seen, at least on streaming, it's just a close up of Nick Offerman's face
I saw that.
with
Yeah.
like headphones on. He's making some kind of stupid face. And I was probably like, it just looked kind of bro-ish to me, probably.
Mhm.
And I moved along. Whereas if you look at the kind of the theatrical poster, it's him and his daughter playing with like these happy looks on their faces. I'm like,
Yeah, and the
that looks
colorful record
charming.
spines behind them,
Oh,
much
so
nicer,
good.
much
So
better.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other one's like, I don't know what it was. It was like, maybe people will mistake us for Grosse Point Blank or something like that. Like,
Yeah. Ooh, there's a
I
movie
don't
we should do.
we will. Um,
Well, they create this, she creates this great song and they master it together. Unbeknownst to her, he uploads it. The the first time he hears the song in public is so
Great
charming.
scene. Such a
It's
great
just
scene.
like in the 50s and 60s, these bands, they have all these stories of like, we're driving in the car. First time we heard it come over the radio, we had to pull over because we were swerving. Like, and it's even detailed great in that film, That Thing You Do, the Tom Hanks film, where this band, the Wonders, hear their song and like, Liv Tyler, the girlfriend of one of the guys, hears it first and runs with the radio to
Oh,
where
I
they
remember
are.
that
And
scene. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's so great. But like, this is like, a modern day version of that with Spotify. Like,
Which is hard to arrange because you need Nick. You need Frank because
right,
Frank is out of touch. Any other band that this young lady would be in, first of all, she's too busy with medical school. She doesn't even know he uploaded it. So she's
right,
not going to be, if he's any young person, he's checking Spotify every 5 minutes to see how it's doing.
right.
So the discovery moment has since become a thing that doesn't happen anymore. But because of this unique set of circumstances, you get um, Frank Fisher in a coffee store going, "This is my band." This is turning to people,
Yeah,
showing them the phone that it's playing. "This is my band. This is my band." It's so heartwarming, so
it's so great.
touching.
Also, he wanted that moment, when he
His whole
was
life.
18, when he was
Yeah.
20, when he was 22, when he was 20,
Hmm.
and he was denied it all this time by fate, by luck, by a lot of things, by talent. To see him get it and to see him turning and acting like an 18-year-old with this beard with white in it, like with his
Hmm.
paunch, with his like age
I wish
upon
you and
him,
I had been sitting in that coffee shop because we would have beamed and said, "Congratulations, man, congratulations,"
we would have
and not
matched
looked
his
at him like,
intensity.
yeah, because the people looked at him. They weren't terrible. They were standard people, and they were
Right,
like, "Okay, buddy, relax."
right.
Um,
But
but
I was let down by the fucking counter
barista,
person. Like,
yeah, yeah,
what Sam's favorite whoopie pie is, but you're not excited
but
for
you're
us.
not happy for
That's her
Frank, yeah,
voice. Yeah.
yeah.
So he hears that and he's like over the moon. We immediately, like, he goes to Sam and fills her in on it. She's like, "What'd you do?" But I love that the next time we see him, he's in his record store with his old notebook out, and it
He's doing
says,
it.
action plan for the band.
Mhm.
Like, and it
Yep, it's
ends
got a
with like
couple
play
of
Mercury,
sketched logos.
yeah, and then
Like,
Mercury Lounge
maybe
question mark.
band with a line through it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe, Ghostbusters style with the "We're not a
Yeah.
band." Yep.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
so
It's
cool.
yeah, he's got the, what do you call those black and white speckled notebooks? He's got those,
The Marble Notebook,
yeah, that
yeah,
the black and white cover. He's got that
yeah,
open and he's working on
yeah, it's
it.
great. What's awesome about that too is that then afterwards, because he's got the old notebook out, he's got all his old lyrics, and he plays a song for his daughter. And what's great about it is because it's so brilliant how he's not as gifted musically as her. And so you see
Mhm.
him like struggle with his voice isn't great.
He
His
misses a note or
he
2.
misses a note or two,
Yeah.
and it's a great performance by Offerman. And the song is about
And he does
his
play guitar. I mean, it's an
he
actual
does.
performance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's great. And he's probably playing it to be someone who doesn't play as well as probably Nick Offerman can play too. And it's a song about her, Sam, and her mom. There's elements of both about leaving him. And it's nice to see him being so open with her. He's got a little bit of that nervousness that one bandmate has when they play a song for their other bandmates.
Mhm.
Like, this is a work in progress kind of. It's got that kind of disclaimer
Yeah.
vibe to
Yeah.
it. And he's like nervous about it, but he plays it for her. He's so open and vulnerable with his daughter, and she gets it. She's invested, and she's like, "That's a good
Mhm.
song. Like, it gets me. It's really
Yeah.
sweet."
She said, "First, that's a good song, and second, that's about mom."
Yeah.
And he says, "And you, or both
Oh,
of you," I think he
I'm
says.
gonna
Yeah,
start crying right now.
right in the
Oh,
feels. It gets
yeah.
you. Yeah. And it's,
Oh,
that scene is very much points to one of the main points of making this movie is to say you can communicate feelings through music. It happens again in the movie later on. Sam communicates with her love interest, with her girlfriend through song. Um,
Rose.
at Frank's behest, like, please, you have to do it. You have to play it. You have to sing it. There
Yeah.
she is. There she is. You're
Yeah.
leaving next week. There she is. Sing it.
What's great is when she first writes a love song, he's like, "That's a love song," and she's like, "No, it's not a love song." He has to beat it into her that that's a love
Right.
song, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Do you have a girlfriend?" And she goes, "Ugh," and he's like, "You have a boyfriend?" Like he's surprised, like because he knows that she likes girls. Like it's
Right.
so
So
charming.
when she says no to girlfriend, he's like, boyfriend? Which I think is great too, because that establishes that there is no scene in this movie where the father accepts her, because it's assumed that the father has accepted her
He's
long
accepted her
ago,
long
or
ago.
that
Yeah.
right, yeah. And that's nice. I mean, that's like that in the stages of, and listen, I love that there were movies with parents accepting their children,
Mhm.
but the next stage is movies where that doesn't need to be a
That
plot
doesn't need
point.
to be said. Well,
And here we are.
I was going to say, even as we're saying this, that I'm finding fault with the phrase accepting your children. They've always been your children. And then they reveal something to you about themselves. And then there has to be like an acceptance. like
Yeah,
I-
it's very weird.
it's
Yeah.
bizarre because they're
I
your
could understand
children.
if it was something negative.
Right. They were accepted
Like,
at birth, you would like to think. Yeah, okay,
if
we'll
I
have that kid.
if I come right, and that should
That
stick.
should do it.
But
Yeah.
if I come to my parents and say, "I've decided to become a meth dealer,"
Mm.
they can now accept me as a meth dealer.
Well, see, but that's something illegal.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is why are you treating
Oh, I see
the
why.
fact that someone likes girls
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like it's illegal?
Right,
But that's
right.
the whole thing. I mean,
Mom,
that's
dad, I
like
killed someone.
yeah, that's the whole
That should be,
that's
yeah,
when
we'll help you hide the body. That should
right.
be, but somehow mom, dad, I like the same sex as me. And it's like, get out of this house. Like
Yeah,
I don't get that where they draw the
yeah,
lines.
it's bizarre.
But anyway, this is a good parent. Yeah, let's talk about Rose, Sam's love interest. I love this actress.
I don't know
She
where I've seen her before, but I was immediately like, "Oh, I know this girl. I love her."
Yeah, I've seen her in stuff, and she gives off a great vibe. Some actors just give off a really cool vibe, and she's one of them. She's equal parts cool and vulnerable, like delicate. And at the same time, she looks like she could tear down a house with her bare hands.
Mm,
She's just got a strength to her. What's ironic is that she's trying to bring out in Sam the same side of her personality that her father has been. But
mhm.
you know how it is when your parents try to instill something in you. It's like an instant
Yeah, you're the
get away
opposite.
from me.
Yep.
Here, let's bike down to Coney Island, and she's
Mm.
like, I don't have a bike. And it's such a poignant moment because her mom died on a bike.
It's really well put together because it hits you similar to the way it hits Rose,
Yeah.
because Rose has accidentally forgotten that there's a reason that Sam doesn't know how to ride a bike, and it's because her father could never bring himself to teach her to ride a bike because that's how her mother died, on a
And
bike.
and at one point, Frank, goes and sits by the site of the accident where there's a little
At the
plaque.
white bicycle,
Yeah, and he just sits there and like writes or whatever.
which I'm sure a lot of people from other cities may not be familiar with, but we have white bicycles with plastic flowers all over them, and
Yeah,
they are places where people got killed on a bike.
yeah.
But Rose's realization, I think we really share it with Rose, because you're like, "Yeah, bike to Coney Island, that sounds fun for them." And
Right.
then Sam goes quiet, and Rose says, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And that's when, if you had suspicions of how the mom died, now you're absolutely sure and you get it. And then a great scene of a girlfriend teaching her girlfriend how to ride a bike. Never seen that before in a movie,
Yeah,
and it was great. That was terrific.
so good. Interspersed with that teaching her to ride a bike, we see Nick Offerman's character who is making music on his own. I love the way it juxtaposes those two things. She's out living her life, giving in to that side of her that he loves, and he doesn't know it. He's just there like, she's not here to jam with me. Meanwhile,
Mhm.
she's out living that life. It's kind of cool. let's talk about the other, because we talked about Rose. Ted Danson is in this
I don't buy
as
it. Ted Danson as a bar owner, bartender? That's not believable.
go sell crazy somewhere else. And in this one, he's not abstinent. He actually drinks in this one. Remember in
Mhm.
Cheers, he was the guy who quit
He
drinking and owns a
he had
bar.
those
That's the
little
great
he had
irony.
those little baby seltzers he would drink, the little
Yeah,
baby Schweppes.
exactly. Oh,
Yeah,
ridiculous.
such good that was a great, great thing.
It really
You know,
was.
that brings up a point for me that I'll say it applies very much to Rose, it applies very much to the Ted Danson character, it applies very much to Nick Offerman. I'm a 30-year New York City resident, and I'm a 25-year bartender, so I've met millions of New Yorkers. I don't even think I'm exaggerating.
Yeah.
You know, these are excellent versions of Brooklyn people, of New York City. There are some scenes of Nick Offerman just walking down the street with like a sort of dopey gait and a t-shirt that is maybe less than flattering. That is that guy. Know that guy.
Yeah.
Rose is absolutely so Brooklyn, and she's archetypical. And then Ted Danson morphs from Sam from Cheers to this Woodstock on the weekends guy
Yeah.
that is so absolutely real and believable. A small bar owner, pot smoker, Woodstock on the weekends. Oh, they're all such believable New York characters. And anyone who says they're not doesn't have a New York experience. I'm sure you
No.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They nail it. What I love about his character, Sam used to be a baseball pitcher on Cheers before he owned a bar. This version of Sam Malone, Dave is his character. He used to be an actor. And there's an old playbill up over the bar framed.
Ah, yeah.
And it's the show he was in, Status Quo Vadis, which combines status quo and quo vadis, which was an actual Broadway play in the 1970s that starred a much younger Ted Danson. I love how they give his backstory such realism because, like every successful actor, there's an alternate, less lucky reality for Ted Danson himself, where no one from TV and movies noticed him on stage, and he didn't become the guy on Cheers or Becker or The Good Place, and he owns a bar in Brooklyn. So it rang true on a few levels. They give him that backstory. That's how you know you're watching a really brilliant film.
Yeah, I gotta say, I thought about that too. Like the actors must, I don't know, they must appreciate it.
They have another layer to their character to play.
Right. When you told me I was the bartender, I was like, okay, I'd love something meatier, but I'll take it. And it's like, oh, it
Right.
is meatier. Thank you.
Right. There's another character in this. Well, Blythe Danner plays Frank's mother, who is slowly dementia's taking her freedom from her, and she's going to become a bit more of a headache for him as she goes along. Blythe Danner's great, but she's only in a couple of scenes. But Toni Collette plays the landlord of the record store, and hence Nick Offerman's character. I hate half of her character. I hate the half of her that is like, because it seems like she's the love interest. She goes out with Frank, and Frank takes her to his bar, to his friend's bar. They drink this special stuff. And while there, she runs into some younger guy who she apparently, you can tell, like they were lovers, on again, off again, or whatever. But you get the feeling that she's
Yeah, she introduces Frank to him as one of her tenants. So that's like
right.
that seals the
And
deal
that's
that
after
she's with this
kissing
young
him.
man.
That's after kissing him earlier.
On
So
her,
she initiated.
Yeah, she initiated that kiss.
Right, with Frank. And it meant something. It was like a sweet, they had been slowly getting together on a real level. And you get the impression when she meets this dude in the bar, like re-meets him, that it was just sexual with that guy. But she acts like a little schoolgirl around him. And then it's totally different. That's the end of the date, sort of. It's kind of ugly because later you see Frank trying to go to his bar during the day, and she walks in there with this dude. And it's like, wait, you're just going to take guys to she's probably going to ask to have the real stuff. It's like ugly.
That's, and that's another moment where Frank is doing the dopey, adorable walk through Brooklyn. And you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, this guy is so Brooklyn." And it's an endearing walk. It's a full shot of him, like, head to toe, on his way to his favorite bar. It's what's familiar, it's what's comfortable, it's his happy place, and she's going in with that guy. I guess that begins his small downward spiral.
His character of Frank Fisher isn't all that different from Jeffrey Wright's character of Monk that we dealt with in American Fiction. There's
Mm,
this kind of like life of quiet desperation that's happening and a constant like, hey, maybe things will work out. Oh, right, of course
yeah,
not.
yeah.
It's
Mhm,
kind of like got that feel to it. And he's given these mini victories like, are you Frank Fisher? And then he's nervous. Yes. Of that band? We're not a band? And he goes,
mhm,
yes. I love that this guy comes in the record store from Silly Bird Records and he like he gives him this little dose of happiness because he never
mhm.
got it back in the day. I went to, it has to be like 20 years ago now. I went to the Continental back when that rock club was still going and I saw the Germs play. And the Germs were made famous with Darby Crash, who killed himself a couple of days before John Lennon or something. So he didn't
Ah,
make any headlines. Tragic. But that band never got to tour, never got to do anything. So I got to see them with the lead singer, this guy Shane, who played Darby in the movie. And I wrote up a review of it at the time. And basically, what I said was like, I really felt good for the other three members, the original three members of the Germs, because they never got to do the rock band thing for real.
mm,
They never got to tour with Darby. They never got to, play these places and see the audience reaction from people in different towns. I think about him, he never got any of those things. And one of the things was hearing him on the radio, we already talked about, or as close to the radio as we have today. Another one is somebody offering him a record deal. He never got
sure,
that.
record company guy, yeah.
Yeah, so he got that too. And
Mhm.
then at the end of the film, as kind of a little end game moment, they give him an email from the person at Mercury Lounge, one of my favorite venues here. They accept him and they're like, hey, you want to play it? So the first gig acceptance is there. And you can see that it's enough for him by then. He just kind of nods and smiles. I love
Yeah.
those little moments, but that's all he gets.
It's occurring to me now too how personal the film is.
Mm,
Now that I'm thinking, because I was like, just now you said one of my favorite lot. I'm like, I love Mercury Lounge. I love that the bar is
yep.
sequestered from the live room.
Yeah.
It's just, it makes such a difference.
It has a
And
respect for the creative
it
work
has a
happening in
lot
there.
of respect for the music. It's very much a real venue.
Yes.
Um, and yet it is so different from the Irving on one side, Irving Plaza on one side, and then just bars that have live music like Lakeside Lounge. Like it is not none of those. It just lands in its own spot. It's so Mercury
Yeah.
Lounge is so good that way. So Mercury Lounge, I'm like, oh Mercury Lounge, and Ocean Man. I'm like, oh Ocean Man.
Yeah. He
Uh,
starts playing Ocean Man, their first
yeah,
jam sesh.
they were gonna jam. He wanted to jam, and they were gonna jam, and he was taking them down a road that would never produce a new song.
Right.
They were gonna riff off of Ocean Man, and she gave him a look and played something that she had come up with.
And what I love about that too, you're absolutely right, is it speaks to something she said. You've been trying to get me to be in a band with you since I was 12. And she never wanted to because he would just play all these songs he loves. He was
Yeah.
not, there's this transition certain bands make where they're like they play covers in the bars and then they work on their originals and they turn into something. He would never have turned into anything.
Mm.
Probably because he's still mourning the loss of his wife, and she was probably the creative mastermind behind a lot of their better songs. And he always took the lead in these jam sessions. And the one time she takes the lead, they come up with a
It
song
was
that
it
is a
was
hit.
such a broy, heartless version of Ocean Man too. He's just
It
like,
really,
"Ocean Man, let me take you by the hand." It
oh,
was such a perfect thing to do.
it really
I
was.
yeah, I it was a great choice for the number and
Also, when you stop and think, like, he might have played that for her when she was like 6 and she
Oh,
loved it.
it was like one of her favorite children's
So
albums.
in
Yeah.
his head, we see also insight into how he sees her and how he tries to bond with her. And she's like, dude, I'm like on some new shit, you
Yeah.
know,
And that, and they play that up also in the instrumentation. Like Frank is all electric guitar and
and
amp
bass and
and
drums.
yeah, and she has the sampler and
Yeah.
the laptop open. And
Yeah.
whenever she is working on her ideas, she's hitting buttons
Yeah.
and he's hitting strings and knobs, but she's the better musician, which
Yeah.
pays a lot of respect to modern musicians.
It does.
A lot of these movies get dickish about samplers and this, but
Right.
those are instruments.
Also, it bridges the gap beautifully because it shows just how strong they are together and that each of them, they're greater than the sum of their
Yeah,
parts, you
don't
know?
judge, unite,
Mm, always good.
because once he stops poorly jamming on Ocean Man and starts trying to accompany her on her song, he comes up with some amazing stuff.
He does. He really
Yeah,
gets it. Yeah.
yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, American fiction, how do you make a scene about writing a book? That's how.
Yeah.
And this is a great example of how do you make a scene about writing a song. That's a good songwriting scene.
Also, what's great is on the one side, he even admits as much, Frank does. Sam gets that magical musical gift from her mother. It's great because it raises the question of how do you honor that gift and how do you pay tribute to what your mother has handed down to you? And at the same time, how do you make it clear to your father that you are not your mother and you have no
Mhm.
interest in becoming her and that your path is different and that your dad isn't even allowed to say, if your mother were here, he's not allowed to
She
do that.
literally, her exact words are, "You don't get to do that."
Yeah.
He
So it's,
says, "Your mother would want you to. You don't get to do that," which is a perfect answer.
yeah,
Um, that is one line that I thought was like, I wish I could answer uncool requests of me with such confidence as she had with her.
yeah.
And another great one line, which is very different, is her girlfriend Rose says, we're not going to get a shot at
Have
this, are
this.
we?
We're not going to get to
We're,
have this, are
we're
we?
not going to get to have this, are we? Great, amazing line, and
So
just
good.
so aware. In both cases, young people being so aware. I don't know if it's. I do know, actually. I think young people are more aware, more emotionally aware, more
Yeah.
respectful of their boundaries and feelings and stuff. It's a great portrayal of that.
It is. And we've
Yeah.
done a lot of young movies as of late. And I'm liking everything I'm seeing about the kids.
I feel like a lot of kids from our generation would have just been guilted into being in a band with their dad.
Yeah. There's a line I want to call out because in most great movies, there are a ton of throwaway lines that are fantastic. This is one of them. He's at the bar commiserating, he thinks, with his friend Dave. And he says, like, $60,000 it'll cost for 1 year of
Oh,
medical school at UCLA, but we're doing 12,000 because we're broke. And that's a great financial aid package. So you got no money in your bank? 12,000. Then Dave says something that I absolutely love. Yeah, but think of it this way. After all that money, she'll be a doctor. And there's a look on Frank's face that's heartbreaking. Like any other parent, that's meant to console you and they get it. But he's like, I don't want her to be a doctor. I want her to be
right.
in a band with me. I want her to be a big singer. I want her.
It'll be over. I never thought that far because that's thinking about the ending of my musical genius.
Yep.
Also, 4 years of medical school. That's just the beginning.
Just the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to do a whole bunch and
Well,
it all costs more.
here's what I think. When we leave the film, she's in New York and I'm kind of mad at her. I'm like, oh, really, Sam? You didn't have time to be in a band with your father, but medical school, you still have time to do singer songwriter nights. I think she's going to come home in 6 to 8 months and she's going to get back with her girlfriend and be in this band.
No, I disagree. I think that scene says she made the absolute right choice. You can be going to medical school and occasionally squeeze in open mic nights. You can't be a musician and occasionally squeeze in being a medical student.
Let me ask you something. What's going to happen as medical school gets tougher and tougher, and as she realizes she's getting better and better, and more people start coming to see her, and people walk into her place and are like, "Hey, I'm with Silly Bird Records. You want to put out a..." Isn't she going to realize that, yeah, she has special aptitude here, but she has super special aptitude here? I don't
I don't
know.
know. I might have to look up Brian May and see how he managed to become a what is he, a theoretical physicist?
Oh, wow.
Brian
Is
May
he
of
really?
Queen.
Mm.
Yeah. That's how I knew that he didn't do the music for Mad Max. I was like, there's no way. There's no
That's,
way it's all
yeah.
three.
Yeah. As everyone knows, I collect a shit ton of vinyl. And there's a scene towards the end where everything must go in the store. And she lifts up, is it Rain Dogs by Tom Waits?
It is Rain Dogs, yeah.
And she goes, "Dad, you can't sell this for $3. As a vinyl head, I'm like, as a crazy markdown, that would have been $20. But that wouldn't signal to the non-collectors that it's a low price. So they made it $3.
Right.
It is.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when like the racks are getting empty, there's still like Sonic Youth stuff hanging up. Like it's not a real like record thing.
We should speak to the fact that, like, I bet you, I mean, I was able to find the records that are visible in the background of all the record store scenes. You can tell they're intentionally chosen. And there are some great, well, there's the couple that feature in the film. There's Rain Dogs and there's, what is it, Animal something? The record with the
Animal
optical
Collective.
illusion. Animal Collective record that they discuss, and I think one other record that they discuss in the first scene.
Well, later, Slater Kinney, Dig Me Out is one
yes,
that Tony Collette's character is getting.
But lots of great record covers in the background whenever they're having a conversation. I could see, I'm like, oh, I recognize that cover. I recognize that cover. Also, the opening scene is in the record store.
It's great.
When he's lighting a cigarette. I was like, oh, because I didn't know. I was like, this movie centers around a record store. It must be good because Hollis would have been judgmental of it. So if it's not good, right. Hollis would have said so.
Oh yeah, I would have shut that shit down quick. Funnily enough, that scene, he's in a record store, normally where someone who runs a record store, let alone owns the record store, always has music playing in the record store. He's got a laptop and he's got headphones on and he's listening to Wilco play a live set somewhere and he's smoking a cigarette. At the end of the film, he's putting up like their poster for them, or he's setting up equipment for their band to play their goodbye show, their debut and goodbye show at the record store as it's closing that night. Jeff Tweedy from Wilco comes up to him and is like, "Hey, is a band playing?" He tells him the name and he's like, "Oh, I can't stay, but great band name." And he walks out. There's no way, Dave, that his character wouldn't have chased Tweety down and at least been like, "Here's our demo," or "Look for us on Spotify," or anything. "You're a big inspiration." Nothing. You just he lets him go.
I do know a guy who was on an elevator.
Line Lemon Jefferson.
Oh, it was worth a shot, right?
You closed your eyes and went like that. Who are you doing?
Anyway, I know a guy a guitarist, a lifetime guitarist, who was on an elevator in a building that contained Sony. Stevie Ray Vaughan stepped on the elevator with him. He said two things to Stevie Ray Vaughan. The first thing he said was, "Stevie Ray Vaughan." And the second thing he said was, "Stevie Ray Vaughan." And Stevie Ray Vaughan stepped off the elevator. He never snapped out of it. And he never got to say something. But I think that's perfect. A much better story than, "Oh my God, I love your stuff. Thank you so much for this record and that record." Like,
no, not even that, but just like make him stay because you're about to play the best set of your life.
I know. Because also it's like, what am I going to do? Get him to stay? He's going to say, "This is great. Let's do something with it." And then he's going to be like, "Oh, by the way, my daughter doesn't want to do this."
Well,
like, it's not.
Well, here's something.
Oh, you're still trying to pile on Sam. You're like, with Tweety on his side, he might turn her.
No. What's funny is I'm just a big fan of putting things out into the world. And so you don't have to be a band to record and put out music. But the thing that gets me about that is that I didn't think of this the first time I watched the movie, but this time I was like, holy shit. On her laptop, she better have pressed record before they started all this. Like,
Right. Yeah.
they need that gig recorded. Like, that would be
Mm.
ridiculous if it isn't. Tweety might want to put that out.
Yeah, that's true. Right. Also, staying on Tweety, I think that that was a kind of a confident move by the filmmaker because that scene's weird if you don't know who Jeff Tweedy is.
Yeah.
And I have to assume that a lot of people don't recognize Jeff Tweedy. I mean, a lot. Do you know why I recognize Jeff Tweedy?
Why?
Because he was on Colbert once.
Oh, okay.
And that's it. That's the only reason I recognized him. So I have to assume that many people saw this movie and be like, well, that was a tense scene with a customer.
Well,
Like,
you know what? That's why they bookended it. That's why he was listening and watching Jeff Tweedy play on his laptop in the record store.
good point.
So that
Good point.
even the normals will see at the end, oh,
Right.
that's that guy that he liked, even if they don't say Jeff Tweedy from Wilco. And I also like that he calls out, what's his name? Songzo Haya, Jason Molina. He went by that alter ego. Toni Collette is in the store and she's like, what are we listening to? And he's like, oh, this guy, it's really just one guy. And he wrote these songs and he died young. And it reminded me of myself where I'm just like, there's no dark corner of the music industry that I haven't burrowed a little hole in where I'm like, oh, this guy's tragic. I love him. Like,
right. Yeah. It's also the joy of being the guy behind the counter in the record store. That's like his I mean, it has become not his happy place because he's tired of selling people music. And he
right.
wishes he could make music like he used to. We used to go to this place, Rocks in Your Head, and there was a guy,
Mm,
Jim, behind the counter, and that's what you did. You're going through the records, and something comes on. You go, "Oh, this sounds good. Who's this?"
yeah.
He's like, "I just got it. It's blah blah blah," and he knows everything about it.
Right.
And you buy it, and then you come in again next week, and you're like, "I listened to that record. It was amazing." And he says, "They're going to be at they're going to be at the blah blah blah." And it's like the music town square, the record store. I mean, it's like perfect for
Right.
you. Yeah.
Rocks in Your Head was on Prince Street.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rocks
Soho.
in Your Head Records. Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, we could do an hour on the record store, Dave, and its disappearing cultural importance. And don't be fooled by the vinyl resurgence. Like the vast majority of the vinyl that people are buying new are not, things routinely put out by mom and pop record stores. They're just,
Yeah.
you'll find them in Target.
The last gasp for me, I don't know, but Rhino, they had a Rhino Records shop in New
That's
Paltz,
great.
and it was big, and they had bands in the store, and they actually put out records, and we went there
Right.
on a regular basis, and it was the beginning of the end, I think. And
Mm.
I mean, whatever resurgence there is, thank God it's there.
Yeah. But the big failing, and this is, a sidebar within a sidebar, I hate how record stores now have to play the online game with everyone else. The days of walking in and finding a $200 record on the wall for $65 are over, long gone.
Because they're listing it
The
online.
bulk of
Yeah.
those records, and even lesser good ones, they never make it out of the back room of the record store. They're all like priced
Yeah.
back there and they're put on Discogs and you don't see them in the mom and pop.
Yeah. They never even
Um,
like they arrive in a box, they're inspected, and then they're bought and put back in a box and go out before
Yeah.
they even make it into the part where you might have flipped through and found it.
Right.
But
So
that's how
anyway,
it goes.
that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Like the sands of the hourglass, so go the days of our lives.
See, but
Uh,
this brings up something I want to say about this movie, and I just want to get my. Remember when I was saying about American Fiction? Like, man, this movie was so good, I would have watched it without the story of the book. Fuck,
without the
And,
plot.
without that hook. I
Right.
think it still would have been a great movie about families and relationships. I really do. And then I watched this and I'm like, okay, there is no $7 million. There is no television appearances. So this is that. There's success in it and stuff, but it's small success. And there's problems, but it's small problems. These are real people, regular people. And it occurs to me because I was popping around looking for, because I was like, oh, this movie's 5 years old. I bet there's interviews and stuff. I see these interviews, they're interviewing Nick Offerman and he's saying, oh, the character, so lucky to get this character. He's great. And I know that when you're interviewing Nick Offerman, you're essentially doing a commercial for the movie. When you interview any of these people, when they're on a talk show, it's a commercial for the movie. I know that. But I wish we would stop saying how interesting the Frank Fishers are and the Sam Fishers are and talking to the actors who play them. And I wish people would occasionally interview Frank Fishers, people who aren't famous. Like, I wish someone like Conan or someone, you know what, he's too big, it wouldn't work. But like when you're in a bar and you meet someone and you're talking to them and their life sounds vaguely interesting, invite them on your show to be interviewed. I would
Dave,
watch the hell out of that show.
when I was a kid, one of my favorite shows was Real People.
Ah,
Do you remember
right.
that? Skip
Yes,
Stevenson and
yeah.
Peter
But like,
Billingsley.
even then, I know that like people working for that show would say, "Oh, I've got someone. Oh, what's interesting about them?" It's like, stop it.
Yeah.
I really want to hear from interesting people. I think it would be hard to find someone that wasn't worth talking to. I just think that everyone has stories. Everyone's life is hard and great and all the different things. And I think that we don't give enough time to listening to just, I don't know, everyday people.
Closing on a Sly Stone song. Fade in with everyday people now. And I'd be like, all right, everybody, real Topeka people, man.
We're real Topeka people, man.
Yeah.
We should have it on a real person once a month or something.
That'd be great. All right. This was a great film. Yet another film that fell through the cracks, I feel, and didn't get all it deserved the first time around. So hit it up. I think this would be a perfect double feature mate with Lars and the Real Girl, or even a bigger film like Almost Famous. Like something about this film. If you don't like this film, I don't say this often, if you don't like this film, there's something wrong with you.
That's true. You don't say that often.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, you'd have to be a real hater not to like this film. I truly believe that.
Well, I mean, it's set up to not be liked by music snobs. It's set up by people to say like, "Oh, I didn't like the songs that they claim took off. Why I didn't like that song."
How can you even make that argument when these songs didn't take off anywhere? They're being played in a record store on closing night. That's their big outing. And
Right,
Spotify,
yeah.
congratulations, they had 50,000 plays and got 12 cents.
Yeah. And I said it before, this movie nails these characters, this archetypical, and I don't mean archetypical in the world of movies, in the world of film, in the world of literature. I mean actual Brooklyn human beings.
Mm-hmm.
This movie delivers real New York City people, real Brooklynites.
Yeah.
I like that no one's shitting on the gentrification. Like, not that there isn't actual gentrification of Brooklyn and not that it can't be problematic, but I'm just sick of watching movies make fun of it. Like, find something better.
He's not
going to be
a
the guy.
caveman.
He's not going to be the guy like, oh my God, this baked.
Yeah.
Like, that used to be Rossetti's.
Right. I'll do you one better. He's the guy who's like, this is amazing. What do they call this?
Yeah.
He's that guy.
Yeah. And he proves he's no snob when he quotes Boys to Men.
Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys.
Yeah. I want it that way.
Yeah. I want it what way?
Yeah. Yeah. What does it mean? It doesn't matter.
What does that
Hit
mean?
song. And that's why he's worth rooting for.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to be behind that guy?
Yeah.
All right. We got to get out of here. This was another good one in the books, Dave.
Yeah. 5 years old. Who knew? I would have missed it.
Hollis and Dave would like to thank you for enjoying Pop Culture Graveyard.